So we're going to go over the Fibonacci retracements for the Grayscale Trust today. So with that being said, let's get it. All right, so I know you guys are seeing a little bit of red today. Don't be surprised. That's normal. I mean, we're in the back half of September. Usually we don't start getting bullish until next month. So the fact that we're only a little bit red this month, again, knock on wood, is, in my opinion, not really all that awful. So, because if I remember correctly, I think last September was much worse. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. So in terms of, I'm not going to do the local levels today. You guys can go back for those, but we'll just do the macro and we'll do some kind of in between. So 830, roughly about, I'd say about 1350, 1834, and 2100, and roughly about 2150, 60, somewhere in there. So you're looking at least on the top level, at least 100x, if not more. Again, you guys can do the numbers in your own calculator if you want to. We've gone over this plenty of times, so I'm just going to skip it for this video. In terms of midpoints on LTCN, again, these would be profit targets. I'd be looking at taking profit off the table once they hit these levels if I was still in this position. So 75, 100 to about 135. And then another level above that, I'd be looking at roughly about 200 to 250. And then I'd say probably about maybe 300 to kind of about 400, and then somewhere around the all-time highs. So roughly about 500 to 510, somewhere in there. Because again, the all-time highs are at 510. So those are potential profit-taking points that we don't typically look at. But since, it is getting pretty close to bullish seasonality, Bitcoin should be going on all-time highs soon. They're starting to print money, do QE, all that stuff. You guys know how this goes. So I want to let you guys know this stuff ahead of time. So 96, roughly about 156, 215, and 252 on BCHG. So it's roughly about a 40x. I mean, that's not bad. Okay, so midpoint levels. We already talked about these levels down here, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'd be looking at roughly about kind of in that 30 area. You can see it's very heavily traded, kind of in this area, and then this big box right here, roughly about 42 to 60 as potential profit targets. HSEN, so HSEN, yeah, this one really goes out there. So 49, 75, 108, and roughly about 126 respectively. So, I mean, you're looking at pretty good gains on this one. Again, roughly about another 40x. In terms of mid-levels, I'd be looking at probably around, again, we go over the swing high, and we've already gone over this zone, but I'll just show you guys this zone again. So roughly about $6.90 to $8. You have about $11.30 to $12.30 above that, and then I'd be looking kind of at this wick high as a potential profit target point as well. So somewhere between 15 to 16. Okay, ETCG. Swing high was all the way up at almost $100. That's kind of insane. I actually remember when ETH Classic was moonshotting last cycle. I just couldn't believe my eyes, dude. I was like, holy crap, this is like some kind of shite coin and it's going to the moon. Like, what is going on here? I was just, dude, I couldn't even believe it. And back then, I think I only had like a handful of tokens, like 10 or something like that, bought down at like $20. And it went up to whatever the all-time high was, like 130, 140. So 160, roughly about 245, 340, and 400. Yeah, I learned pretty quickly in the last cycle that it doesn't matter how much of a SHIT coin it looks like. I mean, even the crappiest of the crap coins can do just stupid returns, so it's just best not to underestimate them. Now, there's a difference between being bullish on an SHIT coin and getting involved in a scam, so please be careful. Make sure you guys understand what you're getting into. All right, so kind of midpoint levels here for ETCG. I'd be looking probably roughly around, I'd say maybe about 23. You can see those wick highs up there. That's a potential area. So somewhere around 23, and then above and beyond that, probably just this zone up here. So roughly about 40 to 50. could be potential areas of profit taking. Again, you guys got to understand on the other side of the trade, there are bears looking at these resistance levels looking to short. So, if you're not going to take profit, then they probably would be willing to dump on your head and try to short your position to zero. I know it's cruel. It sounds harsh, but that is the reality of trading, y'all. And, it just kind of is what it is. So, and I'm not saying that you guys are here for trading. You guys are obviously here for the big gains, but again, somebody is going to be selling at that level, most likely whether taking profit or shorting. So 77, roughly about 120, 164, and then 191 respectively. Okay, so ETH. Yeah, I'd be looking at this 36 level before getting to the cup and handle target. That's probably about the only one I'd be looking at. I mean, I can't really think of any other levels that might be in between there. I mean, maybe 43 to about the cup and handle target at 47. Okay, so fill G or file G, however you prefer to say this. I personally don't do pronouns, but you are welcome to do as you please. All right, so roughly about 640, 1,015, 1,390, and 1,600. And when I say do as you please, I'm referring to your own investments, of course, because we're all going to do what we want to with our own money. Okay, so in terms of midpoints here, I'd be looking at probably right around 140, 115 to 140, somewhere in there. And then maybe at this kind of swing high up here, roughly about 270 as kind of in between the current price and the all-time highs. Okay, GBAT. So levels we got here 50, 78, 107, and roughly about 126 respectively. So, 125 divided by 5 is 25. So that's roughly about what you would get on this just to get to all-time highs. So midpoints, I'd be looking at roughly about 1430 to about that 1870. So kind of this channel thing right here in between the current price and the highs. GLIV. And I am aware that there are new trusts that are on the market. We may also go over those as well. You guys will just have to give me a little bit to do some research on them and make sure I understand what they are and what they're, what the projects are about and stuff like that. So, and then maybe perhaps I'll throw some charts up here for you guys to look at. So 120, 187, 258, and then roughly about 295 respectively. Okay, in terms of midpoints, you could be looking at 32, somewhere between 42 to about 50, I would say is a good midpoint, and then probably right just before the all-time highs at about 65, 60 to 65, somewhere in there. Okay, G-Link, 335, 535, roughly about 720, and then 840 respectively. So I'd say somewhere between maybe a 5 to a 10x, I'd say is definitely possible on this. Again, that's if it goes past all-time highs, it could easily do so. So 115 to about 140, maybe as high as 160. That's kind of what I'd be looking at for midpoint targets on this one. GSOL, so if this one does go to new all-time highs, which I think it's going to, because again, there's kind of a battle in terms of what is it called? Gas fees between Ethereum and Solana. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Solana is actually cheaper to transfer things than it is with ETH. I know because I've used ETH. ETH is actually quite expensive. So based on that news and the news of the spot ETFs for Solana, it's possible this thing could do a new major all-time high, second one within the cycle. So 775, 1100, 1400, and roughly about 1615 at the all-time highs there. Or not all-time highs, but the max fib level there. So in between that, I'd say probably anywhere between 433 to about 520. There's not a lot of room here because, again, Solana is not sitting at lows like some of these. It's actually pretty elevated. So anywhere in that small area there, potential good midpoint profit targets. All right, GXLM. Actually, you know what? Hold on a second. I'm not even sure if this is actually, no, it is not the all-time high. Okay, so just one second. Okay, so here we go. This would be the actual numbers here. So we got 155, roughly about 245, 330, and looks like about 385. I mean, you could even just round it up and say 400 because it could just have a massive wick to the upside, like LTCN. You can see some of these crazy wicks it gets before it pushes back down. It could have something like that to finish off the move before eventually pulling back down. That's always possible. So 400 is definitely within the realm of possibility based on that. Okay, so midpoints, I'd be looking at kind of this swing high. So 69, again, you have this kind of 52 to 57. And then this red box here, anywhere in the red box, I'd say is a good area. So 73 going back to the previous all-time high at 95. All right, Mana. Personally, I am very, very bullish on Mana and also Filecoin and what was the other one? The Graph. The Graph. I'm bullish on all three of those because I think they have a lot of use case and I think they're very popular and they're going to probably gain a lot of traction in the future. So 113, 175, 240, and 282. Again, Mana, the underlying token, did a 200x from the cycle lows to the cycle highs during the last bull run. Okay, so midpoint targets here, roughly about 30 to 32, 33, somewhere in there. And then I'd say roughly about 50 are kind of good points to potentially start scaling out as the price moves up. Again, if you just want to do a one shot, just say, well, once it gets to a certain price, I'm just going to sell everything. That's understandable. I totally get that. Some people don't want to do that. They want to scale out as they go up, or they want to slowly sell in terms of, well, I mean, regardless of how much you do in a percentile, it's always considered scaling. That's the term used. So you could do like 4.25% scales where you get out 25%, 25%, and so on. Or you could do 10% on the way up 10 times, or 5% on the way up 20 times, depending on how bullish you are, or just do half and half. I mean, some people just they do it like that. It depends on how you trade. So, all right, last one here is Zcash. Okay, so Zcash is actually going quite far back. Unfortunately, some of these did get kind of released towards the end of the bull run. I'm actually glad that Grayscale is releasing some of these kind of in the middle of the bull run or towards the beginning of it and not so much at the end of it. Actually gives people a chance to get in on these new ones and still make some gains without having to worry about like self-custody and all that stuff. So 66, 102, 141, and 165. Again, we'll take a look at those trusts, the newest ones that they have, and get back to you guys on that. So in terms of midpoints here, I'd be looking, we already talked about these areas, so I'd probably be just looking at this next level at this box. Maybe right around 1150 could be a potential profit target. Again, this is kind of a swing area here. Swing areas are usually major buyer or seller points, and then you have roughly about 14 to 1750 somewhere in there. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.